Right now, while you are reading this sentence, Walmart shelves look completely normal, and that is the most dangerous illusion in America today. Nothing screams emergency, no lines out the door, no empty shelves, just the hum of fluorescent lights and carts rolling past fully stocked aisles. But underneath that calm surface, something real is already moving. Prices have shifted, supply chains have cracked, and the people who understand what those signals mean are quietly loading their carts, not because panic sent them there, but because math did. This is not about fear. It is not about doomsday scenarios or underground bunkers. It is about something far more grounded, buying things you will use anyway, at the lowest price you are likely to see for a while. That is it. That is the entire idea. And the numbers behind it are already in. They are not forecasts. They are documented price increases that already happened at Walmart across dozens of tracked items throughout the past year. What does that mean for you? It means the window to act cheaply is still open, but based on every economic signal pointing at the food supply right now, that window has a closing date. Tariffs are adding cost at the import level. Climate disruptions are hitting crop yields in the exact regions the world depends on. And structural supply shifts, the kind that take years to reverse, are already baked in. 13 items, all available at Walmart right now, each one chosen not for drama but for a specific, documented reason: nutritional value, shelf life, price trajectory, or supply vulnerability. Some of them you already buy, some of them you have never thought twice about. But after this, you will think about every single one differently. Let us start at the foundation, because every single item on this list either builds on this one, pairs with it, or protects it. Item 13. White rice. 20-pound bag. If you had to pick one item that anchors every serious long-term food reserve in the world, it would be white rice. Not because it is exciting. Because it works. A 20-pound bag of great value white rice at Walmart costs around $13. That works out to roughly 650 servings. Do that math again slowly. 650 servings for $13. Here is why rice holds up for so long in storage. When rice is milled, the outer bran layer is removed. That bran layer contains natural oils. Natural oils go rancid over time. Remove the oils, and you remove the primary mechanism of spoilage. What you are left with is a carbohydrate that, when sealed correctly in an airtight environment with oxygen absorbers, will remain safe and nutritionally viable for 25 to 30 years. That is not marketing language on a package. That is chemistry. No oxygen means no bacterial growth. No bacterial growth means no deterioration. The rice just waits. Quietly. For decades. The moment you get home, transfer it out of the original store bag. Food-grade plastic buckets with Gamma Seal lids are ideal. For maximum shelf life, place a Mylar bag with oxygen absorbers inside the bucket first, then pour the rice in and seal everything. The bucket costs $4. What it protects is 30 years of caloric stability. But here is what rice alone cannot do. It provides carbohydrates and almost no protein. By itself, it keeps you alive and running low. What fixes that? The next item on the list, and the reason these two have appeared together on every continent for thousands of years. Item 12. Pinto beans. 4-pound bag. 1 cup of dried pinto beans, once cooked, becomes roughly 2.5 cups of food, delivering about 15 grams of protein per serving. For a household operating on stored food during any kind of disruption, that protein is not optional. It is a physiological requirement. The body cannot manufacture its own essential amino acids. You have to consume them. Here is the part that should stop you for a moment. When you eat rice and beans together, the amino acid profiles of both foods combine to form a complete protein covering all 9 essential amino acids the human body requires. That is not a nutritional hack someone discovered recently. That combination appears independently across dozens of unconnected cultures on every inhabited continent over thousands of years of human history. That kind of repetition is not coincidence. It is evidence of something that genuinely, reliably works. Pinto beans stored dry, away from heat and moisture, maintain full nutritional value for 25 to 30 years. Moisture is their only real enemy. Eliminate it, and the shelf life is functionally indefinite. A 4-pound bag costs under $4 at Walmart. Buy several. Dried legume prices have been rising alongside broader food inflation, and there is no reversal in sight. Now here's where this list shifts from the basics into items where specific documented events have already moved the price and where the structural cause behind that move has not gone away. Item 11. Ground coffee, 30-ounce canister. Ground coffee at Walmart rose 46% in the past year. That number is documented, tracked. It is not a projection. It already happened. Why? 2 forces hit at the same time. Brazil grows approximately 40% of the world's coffee supply. In the past year, Brazil's primary growing regions were hit by severe drought and frost, the worst agricultural weather disruption for that crop in decades. Global coffee output dropped to multi-year lows. At the same time, tariffs on coffee imports from Latin American countries added cost pressure at the import level. 2 separate forces, drought and trade policy, both pushing the price in the same direction simultaneously. And neither one has resolved. The price you see on the shelf today is not the floor. It is a point on an upward line. Stored in its original sealed canister in a cool, dark location, ground coffee maintains acceptable quality for 1 to 2 years. The 30-ounce format delivers the best cost per ounce value in the coffee aisle. Buy 2 or 3. Rotate them. And there is one more reason coffee belongs on this list that most preparedness content skips entirely. In any extended period where daily routines collapse, power outages, supply disruptions, job loss, any of it, familiar sensory experiences carry documented psychological weight. Research on disaster response consistently identifies routine, sensory anchors as meaningful contributors to household stability under stress. That morning cup of coffee is not just a preference. It is a stabilizing mechanism. The 46% that already happened is the signal. What comes next is already in the pipeline. What comes next on this list is the category with the single most documented structural cause for long-term price increases. And it is not going away. Item 10. Ground beef. Bulk pack. Ground beef at Walmart rose 30% in a single year. Here is the structural reason behind that number. The United States cattle herd is currently at its smallest size since 1951. 74 years. Not a temporary dip. A long, sustained reduction driven by drought across major grazing regions, rising feed costs, and ranchers leaving the industry entirely rather than absorbing losses year after year. When the herd shrinks, supply shrinks. When supply shrinks and demand stays steady, prices rise. That is arithmetic, not speculation. And there is no fast fix. Rebuilding a cattle herd takes years. A cow bred today does not produce market-ready beef for 18 to 24 months. This cycle is fully underway, the trajectory is clear, and the corrective mechanism is slow by biological design. Ground beef freezes well. At 0 degrees Fahrenheit, it holds quality for 3 to 4 months. Vacuum sealed before freezing, that window extends to a year or longer. Buying in bulk at today's price, even at 30% above last year, locks in a cost that is very likely to look favorable compared to where the price is heading. The bulk pack format at Walmart delivers the best cost per pound value in the meat section. That is worth knowing when you are standing in front of the case doing the math. The next item on this list had its price increase explained publicly, specifically, and honestly by the manufacturer, which makes it one of the clearest examples on this entire list. Item 9. Aluminum foil. Large roll. Reynolds Wrap aluminum foil at Walmart rose 13% in the past year. When the manufacturer was contacted for a comment, they did not deflect. They named the cause directly: historic and sustained cost increases driven by tariffs, global supply pressure, rising energy costs, and limited availability of the core material. That is not vague corporate language. That is a specific explanation for a specific cost increase. Here is where that cost originates. A significant portion of the aluminum used in the United States comes from Canada. Canadian aluminum imports now face a 50% tariff. That tariff travels through the supply chain and lands on the shelf price. The tariff structure has not changed. The pressure is ongoing. A large roll of aluminum foil in a food reserve is more than a cooking tool. It blocks light, oxygen, and moisture when used as an outer wrap layer around other storage. It has thermal insulation applications in emergency situations. It is useful across a broader range of household functions than most people think about when they pick it up off a shelf. The 13% is already there. The cause is still active. The price is not heading back down. Now here is a question worth sitting with for a moment. How many of the items in your pantry right now were bought at a price that no longer exists? Item 8. Olive oil. Larger format bottle. Olive oil prices have surged dramatically over the past 2 years. The cause is documented and ongoing. The Mediterranean basin, specifically Spain, Italy, and Greece, produces the overwhelming majority of the world's olive oil supply. Those regions have experienced severe drought and heat stress that dramatically reduced harvests across multiple consecutive growing seasons. Spain, typically the world's largest producer, saw yields drop by more than 50% in recent years. Italy reported similar shortfalls. When multiple major producers face simultaneous shortfalls driven by the same climate conditions, global supply tightens across the entire category. There is no substitute region that produces olive oil at comparable scale to simply absorb that loss. Replanting olive trees does not solve the problem quickly. An olive tree takes years after planting to reach productive yield. The supply pipeline will remain constrained for the foreseeable future. Meanwhile, olive oil is not a luxury ingredient. It is a cooking fat with a documented nutritional profile, monounsaturated fats, antioxidants, and a meaningful caloric density that makes it a practical energy source in any food reserve. Stored in a cool, dark location away from heat and light, a sealed bottle maintains quality for 18 months to 2 years from the production date. Buying a larger format bottle now at today's price is a hedge that will almost certainly look smart in 12 months. Item 7. Canned fish. Multiple varieties. Here is why canned fish earns a place on this list that most standard pantry guides undervalue. Shelf-stable protein is one of the hardest nutritional gaps to fill in a long-term food reserve. Rice and beans handle the protein baseline. But animal protein, the kind that delivers complete nutrition with high bioavailability, requires a different category of item. Canned tuna, sardines, mackerel, and salmon deliver complete protein, omega-3 fatty acids, and meaningful caloric density in a format that requires no refrigeration, no preparation infrastructure, and no rotation for 2 to 5 years depending on the product. Sardines and mackerel in particular are nutritional powerhouses relative to their cost and storage footprint. Canned fish prices have moved upward alongside broader protein category inflation. Tuna, in particular, has seen supply pressure from fishing quota adjustments and rising fuel costs for commercial fishing operations. A case of canned fish bought at today's price occupies minimal shelf space and delivers a nutritional category nothing else on this list can replicate. That makes it irreplaceable in a complete reserve. The next item is one where the documented price move at Walmart generated significant public attention and where almost nobody understood the actual cause behind it. Item 6. Pasta. Large multi-pack format. Pasta is a foundational storage item for almost exactly the same reasons as rice: high caloric density, long shelf life, neutral flavor profile that pairs with nearly every other item in a reserve, extremely low cost per serving. Wheat prices have been volatile due to a combination of factors including drought in major wheat growing regions, export restrictions from key producing countries, and elevated energy costs affecting milling and transportation. Those inputs flow directly into pasta pricing. Stored in sealed, airtight containers away from moisture and pests, dry pasta maintains quality for 2 to 5 years under standard conditions and significantly longer under optimal storage. A multi-pack format bought at today's price is a direct hedge against where wheat-derived food costs are heading. Pasta also fills a practical gap that rice alone cannot always address. It cooks faster under lower heat requirements, which matters in any situation where fuel or energy is a constraint. Do you know what the one flavor dimension is that most stored food is completely missing, and how one item on this list solves that problem for under $5? Item 5. Honey. Large container. Honey is the only food known to never spoil under proper storage conditions. Archaeologists have found honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that remained edible after more than 3,000 years. The chemistry behind that is specific and well documented. The high sugar concentration creates an osmotic environment that bacteria cannot survive in. The low moisture content and naturally acidic pH reinforce that protection. A sealed container of honey purchased today will be chemically identical and fully functional in 30 years. Very few items in any pantry can make that claim without qualification. But permanence alone does not make something worth buying in bulk. Here is what else honey delivers. It is a natural sweetener that satisfies a genuine psychological need during extended disruption. Research on sustained dietary restriction consistently shows that the absence of sweetness, not just calories, affects morale and cognitive function in measurable ways. Honey also has documented antimicrobial properties, making it useful for minor wound care in situations where medical supplies are limited. As an energy source, it delivers fast-acting glucose in a shelf-stable form with no preparation required. It enhances the palatability of simple, repetitive stored food in a way that meaningfully changes the experience of eating from a reserve over days and weeks. A large container costs under $10 at Walmart. It takes up minimal space. It never needs rotating. And it serves multiple distinct functions from a single purchase. That cost-to-utility ratio is exceptional. Item 4. Powdered milk. Large container. Dairy is one of the most significant nutritional gaps in any food reserve built on shelf-stable staples. Fresh milk is not storable at room temperature, and the nutritional profile it provides, calcium, vitamin D, complete protein, and fat, is not easily replicated by other shelf-stable items. Powdered whole milk closes that gap. Reconstituted with water, it delivers the full nutritional profile of fresh milk. It can be used in cooking, baking, and direct consumption. Stored in sealed, airtight containers in a cool, dry location, it maintains quality for 2 to 10 years depending on the format and storage. For households with children, powdered milk is not optional in a serious food reserve. Children's nutritional requirements include calcium and vitamin D at levels that other stored staples simply cannot provide. Making that gap visible before a disruption happens, rather than after, is exactly why this item is on the list. The price of dairy products has been rising alongside input costs in the agricultural sector. Buying powdered milk in bulk at today's price is a decision that makes financial sense independent of any emergency scenario. Here is where this list reaches the items most people have on their shelves already, but in the wrong quantities, in the wrong format, or missing one critical detail that changes everything. Item 3. Dark chocolate, multi-bar pack. Hershey's and Lindt chocolate at Walmart rose 26% in the past year. The cause is specific, and the timeline for resolution is long. West Africa produces approximately 70% of the world's cocoa supply. Those growing regions have been hit simultaneously by disease outbreaks, drought, and aging tree stock, three separate pressures converging at once. Global cocoa harvests dropped to their smallest levels in decades. Global cocoa prices in the past year hit their highest point in more than 40 years. Replanting cocoa trees does not produce meaningful yield for years. The supply constraint is structural and long duration. The 26% that already happened reflects genuine scarcity at the production level, not temporary disruption. Dark chocolate with 70% or higher cacao content is not a luxury item in a food reserve. It delivers antioxidants, flavonoids, magnesium, and iron in meaningful quantities. It provides approximately 170 calories per standard bar, with a fat content that contributes to satiety in a way most shelf-stable items cannot match. Stored below 65 degrees Fahrenheit in a dark location away from moisture, 70% cacao dark chocolate maintains quality for 1 to 2 years, often longer. Heat, direct light, and moisture are its only real enemies. And here is the dimension most preparedness content consistently underestimates. In any extended period of restricted food variety, a single piece of dark chocolate carries psychological weight entirely disproportionate to its physical size. Research on sustained food restriction identifies this category of sensory reward as a measurable contributor to morale and household function under stress. Morale is not a soft consideration. It directly affects judgment, decision-making, and the capacity of every person in a household to function effectively over time. The 26% already happened. The causes are still active. Item 2. Iodized salt. Multi-pack. Every preparedness guide tells you to stock salt. Almost none of them include the specific detail that makes this item essential rather than optional. It has to be iodized. That word is the entire difference between a useful item and a critical one. Iodine is an essential mineral the human body cannot produce on its own. It is required for thyroid function. Without adequate iodine intake over time, thyroid disorders develop. Cognitive function declines. Metabolism becomes impaired. In children, iodine deficiency during critical developmental windows causes irreversible cognitive impairment. These are not mild outcomes. They are documented, serious, and entirely preventable. Before iodized salt became standard practice in the United States in the 1920s, iodine deficiency disorders were widespread across inland regions of the country, places where seafood was not a regular part of the diet. The public health intervention that eliminated those disorders was simple: add iodine to table salt. For most American households today, iodized table salt is the primary dietary source of iodine. Here is why this matters in a food reserve specifically. A reserve built on stored staples, rice, beans, pasta, canned vegetables, grains, contains almost no iodine. If iodized salt is absent from that reserve, The household is consuming a diet essentially without iodine for the entire duration of the disruption. Over weeks and months, the physiological consequences are measurable and serious. One more supply signal worth knowing. One of the largest food-grade salt producers in North America faced significant production and distribution disruptions from a labor strike that rippled through supply chains across the United States and Canada. The disruption did not generate dramatic news coverage. It did not cause visible empty shelves in most areas. But the pattern it illustrates is consistent with every other essential commodity on this list. When a single major producer faces a disruption, there is no ready backup at scale to step in and absorb it. That is how supply chains actually work at the production level. Pure iodized salt, stored in airtight containers away from moisture, holds its iodine content and remains fully functional indefinitely. Nothing else in a pantry can make that statement without a qualification attached to it. A multi-pack purchased today at today's price could serve a family of 4 for years of normal cooking. Dollar for dollar, there are very few items in a Walmart cart with a better long-term return. Which brings us to the final, and this one earns its place for a reason most preparedness guides never address at all. Item 1. Apple cider vinegar. 1 gallon jug. Apple cider vinegar does not expire. Let that sit for a moment. The acetic acid concentration in vinegar creates a chemical environment that is inherently hostile to the bacteria and microorganisms responsible for spoilage. A sealed gallon purchased today will be chemically identical and fully functional in 30 years. Very few items in any pantry can make that claim without qualification attached. But permanence is only the starting point. Vinegar is a genuine food preservation tool. Fresh vegetables that would spoil within days can be extended significantly through simple pickling, vinegar, water, and salt. Nothing else required. That one application alone changes the relationship between a food reserve and fresh produce during any kind of supply disruption. As a cooking ingredient, vinegar provides the one flavor dimension that salt, spices, and fat alone cannot supply: brightness and acidity. That quality is what makes simple food taste complete rather than flat. Over weeks of eating from a reserve, that distinction is not minor. It is the difference between food that sustains morale and food that grinds it down. Apple cider vinegar also functions as an effective antimicrobial surface cleaner in situations where conventional cleaning products are unavailable. One product. Multiple distinct functions: cooking, food preservation, cleaning, all from a single gallon that costs under $5 and takes up almost no shelf space. There is also a documented history of traditional uses for apple cider vinegar in minor digestive support and general wellness maintenance. These are not medical claims. They are reasons this item has appeared in household storage across cultures and centuries. A gallon under $5. Unlimited shelf life. Multiple practical functions. Essentially no storage burden. The cost-to-utility ratio of this item is nearly unmatched by any other single purchase in a Walmart aisle. 13 items. All at Walmart, all under documented supply or price pressure that the numbers have already confirmed. None chosen for dramatic effect. Each one addresses a specific gap, nutritional, practical, or economic, that a standard pantry leaves open. Here is the part that matters most. This does not need to be a single large purchase. It does not need to feel like a dramatic decision. On each of your next 3 or 4 shopping trips, add 4 or 5 items from this list to your cart. Choose the larger format when it is available. Store it correctly. Rotate it as you use it. What results from that simple, steady approach is a meaningful reserve built at prices that, based on every documented trend in the food supply right now, are very likely to look favorable compared to what is coming. The people who will be in the best position 6 months from now are not the ones who react when the price has already moved and the shelf has already thinned. They are the people who acted when the store still looked completely normal, when buying was easy, when the window was still open. That window is right now. If this gave you a clearer picture of what is actually happening in the food supply and why it matters for your household, hit the like button. It helps my channel reach more people who need to hear exactly this. And drop a comment below. Which of these 13 items are you adding to your cart first? Let me know. It is a good way to make sure you actually